This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Kicking off hour 2 of Money Moves live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We're live on Sirius XM, channel 158, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app, wherever you're watching or listening. We appreciate it. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into some college hoops reaction to last night, pushing it forward to today's card. We will also dive into the American Express in the PGA, second event of the PGA Tour season beginning tomorrow. Christopher Powers of Golf Digest is going to join us, and plenty, of course, of conference championship weekend talk. In the first hour, we did deep dives on each individual games. If you missed that, remember, you can always download Money Moves wherever you get your podcast, listen on your own time there. But we're going to kind of push that forward now to more Super Bowl talk, more hypothetical odds that are available on places like DraftKings, FanDuel, where you can look ahead and project forward and see who you think might come out of this weekend and see if you can get a little bit more bang for your buck or a better number than what ultimately is going to be posted once the results are in this weekend.
Any of these stick out to you? So you have the four hypotheticals, Seahawks and Patriots. Seahawks going to be about a 3.5-point favorite in that matchup against the New England Patriots. That total should be around 45.5 as well. You also get the Seahawks against the Broncos, 9.5 with a total of 38.5. Rams and Patriots, a 3-point spread with a total of 50.5 in favor of LA. And then the Rams that lay an 8.5 in a hypothetical matchup with the Broncos with a total of 42.5. So as we've expected for a while now, the NFC clearly the higher rated, and then, of course, the top two teams that we've largely expected for, what would you say, about a month and a half in the National Football League are on the horizon of getting into the NFL, representing the NFC. So not a surprise that both AFC squads would find themselves as underdogs. I guess the degree to which the Broncos, again, are being slighted, I think is incredible.
Yes.
But where are you at when you see these four, side and total?
So I actually went back and started digging at history when I saw these numbers to see, like, okay, when's the last time that a Super Bowl favorite was?
Seems like every year it's like one.
Yes, yeah. Right? Like, you expect these games to be close, and seeing a 9.5 for the Seahawks and Broncos or an 8.5 with the Rams if they were taking on the Broncos. No team had been favored by at least a touchdown in the Super Bowl since 2008, and no more than that since 2007. So it's been a really, really long time. Also, that total with the Seahawks and Broncos, knowing how good both of those defenses are at 38.5, we haven't seen a Super Bowl total in the 30s since 2003.
2008, the undefeated Patriots, correct? Yep. Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, look, it makes sense that the Broncos are going to be where they're at in the pecking order. I just wonder if, let's say I roll with this theory. We've talked about how bad their defense is. What if they figure it out? What if they get back to what they were defensively at the beginning portion of the year? You know, there's obviously a reality in which that can happen, and all of a sudden you're talking about a team that could keep its team in this thing as you move into some of these contests. And let's take a look at the Rams, for example. That to me is the one that sticks out the most. Rams 8.5 with a total of 42.5. What have you seen from the Rams defensively that would make you think that because again, in this scenario, the Broncos have beat the New England Patriots or in the Super Bowl, why would we trust that the Rams defensively and with their shoddy special teams are going to be able to cover by margin when we haven't seen them able to do that?
Yes.
They haven't done it for a while now.
Completely agree with you. And the cool thing about these markets, too, if you've never bet into them before, if this doesn't end up being the matchup, you get your money back refunded. So, like, you can play that Rams, Broncos, like, you take the 8.5 with the Broncos now if you're asking the questions that we're asking right now and saying, okay, if the Broncos get out of this thing, clearly they have shown us something, but are the Rams really worth laying more than a touchdown against a team like this on a neutral? I don't know. So, but if that doesn't end up being the matchup, you get your money back, and it's no harm, no foul.
And to be fair, people might point out, yes, they covered as 14.5-point favorites against the Cardinals. They have failed to cover 3 out of the last 4 games. Yeah. So this has been an interesting stretch for the Rams where they have not looked as anywhere near as dominant as we expected. And then obviously, despite the fact they are here in the NFC Championship game, they're 0-2 ATS in the postseason so far.
When you looked at just the Super Bowl odds in general, where they sit right now, do you think that there is a team that's bettable at any of those available numbers?
Not really. I mean, at this late stage of the season, you shouldn't be betting these odds really at all. I guess the only thing would be, I mean, we keep going back to them. If you have some sort of an edge where you think that the Broncos should be priced much better than where they're at, then yes. If you go, I know Mitch has brought this up before and given him credit, and this injury happened late in the regular season as opposed to this late portion of the postseason. But Kenny White, famously many years ago, had come on this network and said, no, my numbers are telling me that Nick Foles isn't really a drop-off at all from Carson Wentz. And then we know how that went.
Shout out Nick Foles' tweet, by the way, after Bo Nix got injured. You didn't see it?
No.
Immediately following, Nick Foles was like, fortunately for the Broncos, New England does struggle against backup quarterbacks. It's cute, clever little play there. Speaking of the Broncos, though, and where their number is at right now, their odds in that market has been a roller coaster last little bit here. They were 7-1 at DraftKings entering the day of that game, moved to plus 370 after their win, and then dropped down to plus 950 after the Knicks news. They're now 11-1. I mean, so just in the span of 24 hours was all over the place.
And again, excuse me, in theory too, I mean, you want to get the more bang for your buck. You're not betting Super Bowl odds. You're betting them to win this game against New England. You're rolling that over.
Right.
So, again, it kind of goes back to when you're talking about future odds in a conference championship setting, you're probably not playing those. Unless, again, you have some sort of giant edge, which is very unlikely at this point of a year where it's a sport like the NFL.
So also in terms of these hypotheticals, there are also odds posted for potential Super Bowl MVP already, Super Bowl anytime touchdown odds, first touchdown in the Super Bowl already set. Seahawks and Patriots you see is, we'll put the graphic up here in a moment, but Seahawks and Patriots all over the top of the board in each of these markets, with Sam Darnold, your current favorite to be Super Bowl MVP at plus 260.
So I went through this and I sorted these out by players. So you have the Seahawks, your top four options for Super Bowl MVP: Sam Darnold plus 260, Kenneth Walker 13-1, Jackson Smith and Jigba 15-1, Rashid Shaheed at 40-1. Put a pin in that one. We'll get back to that later. Stafford at 3-1, Nakua 15, Kyron Williams at 40, and Devontae Adams at 55. The Patriots, Drake Mays at plus 290, Ramondre Stevenson at 45-1, Travion Henderson at 71, Stephon Diggs is 90-1. Again, these are for Super Bowl MVP. Yet Jarrett Stidham at 20-1. Stormy, there was multiple defensive players for the Seahawks and Rams before I got to the next Bronco, which was R.J. Harvey at 100-1, and then Nick Bonito at 120, and J.K. Dobbins at 150-1. Again, I am just fascinated by this. How little we think of what this team is going to be amongst these. And again, keep in mind, what have we been saying all year about the NFL? This seems wide open. There's no dominant team. I think the Seahawks are shaping in to be that team, but even then, there is a glaring asterisk, blemish, whatever you want to call it, with their offense and the health of Sam Darnold. I am really fascinated by the way that this is broken down. But Super Bowl MVP is a fun market. I told you the other day I parlayed the Indiana money line in the national championship with Jackson Smith and Jigba to win Super Bowl MVP. So that's about 20-1. And Jackson Smith and Jigba with, what did I put in yesterday? I had something else in there. But either way,
I can pull it up.
Parlaying some of these others together is, I think, a fun way to do it. But Super Bowl MVP, come on now. Who cares about EV at this point? Let's just fire away on some of these. It'll be a lot of fun.
JSN
Dodgers to win the World Series.
I was going to say JSN Super Bowl MVP with Dodgers to win the World Series, and you have the Nuggets to win the Western Conference with the Dodgers to win the World Series.
So, Dodgers and JSN.
Are we going to get a lockout, by the way?
Probably. So, Dodgers and JSN, 54-1.
What a time to be alive.
You don't have
That's
any
funny.
MVP candidates that would stick out to you?
Hold on real quickly. You said put a pin in Rashid Shaheed. So what was your thought process on
that's just, come on, that's a fun sweat, is it not?
40-1?
If you think the Seahawks are going to win and move on, which I do, I mean, again, you're talking about a dynamic special teams unit that has been absolutely fantastic. Shaheed as well, they use him in multiple different ways. We saw him run the ball a couple of times against your 49ers. And when he gets the ball in those moments, they're generally plays that are drawn up to get some explosives.
Yeah.
So you know that when he touches the ball, you can get a big play here. I think there's anytime he goes back to either return a kick or a punt or whatever it is, you're going to be sitting there waiting for him to break one off, which he's been doing with some regularity.
So I know you've firmly planted the flag on Seattle. That game to me is just, it's not as cut and dry as I feel like it's being made out to this point. And I could very easily see the Rams having things go their way. If Sam Darnold just has a bad day. And I get it, like, they're going to run the rock, they're going to play good defense. But if Sam Darnold gets you in trouble in this game, I think the Rams could be live. And if that's the case, Puka Nacua at 15-1, Super Bowl MVP?
Sure. I mean, he's going to get a high volume of targets.
That's the one that caught my attention most. Like, if you think that there's a path for the Rams to win this game this weekend, what are the Puka odds going to go to after that?
Right. Well, and that's the other interesting aspect about this. Mitch and I talked about this angle when it comes to Super Bowl MVP for these NFC teams. If the Patriots are upended, you're going to have some Super Bowl MVP tickets on a team that is heavily favored to win that game in the Super Bowl. So your Super Bowl MVP tickets, if you bet them now on either one of these teams and you're correct, you're going to have some guys that are a little bit shorter to win MVP than in one of these other Super Bowls we're talking about where, it's usually 1.5 point spreads, things of that nature. So the likelihood that they're going to win this is just a skosh higher than in a usual Super Bowl.
I like that word. Just a skosh.
This is such an interesting conference championship weekend because we have an incredible game between the two best teams in the NFL. And then you get this other moment where it's second-year quarterback and team that played the easiest schedule, again getting seemingly another cupcake in front of them, and the market is just out. They're just done.
Give me chaos. I'm absolutely here for it.
Broncos Seahawks might suck, but I'm down for it.
I'm going to do the untraditional teaser where I just pair both of these dogs together. Yeah. I feel like for anyone who has followed the show throughout the course of the season, if I didn't do that, I would just be doing myself a disservice because this is what I'm supposed to do. That said, as we continue to get ready for Big Game 60, the Super Bowl is going to be here before you know it. We have a deal here at VSiN to match. You can save $60 off our VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using our code MONEY. Become a VSiN Pro annual subscriber. Bet smarter all year long. That's going to get you full access to our daily best bets from every VSiN host and guest, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools, and matchup analysis, 24/7 video, full show replays, all on the VSiN Watch app. Plus, our betting guides as they come out, which will be a Super Bowl betting guide, as well as March Madness when we get there. Don't miss out on the big game deal. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code MONEY. Save $60 off the annual subscription. Again, VSiN.com/subscribe. Code MONEY. We'll be right back.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
So the NFC West still alive. The two teams in the division. Two have been eliminated. One very recently eliminated. The San Francisco 49ers. Exit interviews today. Sounds like John Lynch speaking. Quote, I think it's safe to say Brandon Ayuk has played his last snap for the 49ers.
No kidding. No kidding. Really?
So we just got that down. They're having some interviews with them, but very interested to see where Ayuk ends up now. But he has officially played his last snap.
Jeez. That whole thing was such a mess this year.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the season, too, the will he, won't he be available when he comes off of injured reserve. And then it just never became anything. And especially the state of where the 49ers pass catching unit was for most of the season. And you go through the whole rigmarole to get paid. They agree to do it with you, and then you still act the way that you. I don't know the background of all of it, but it didn't end well, and I have no problem with him being on the way out.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to find because practice is starting for these teams, Patriots and Broncos, and trying to see if there's an update on some of these Broncos receivers coming out of practice right now. One Broncos reporter. Let's see. These are the Patriots. So, we're still waiting to see if the Broncos get on the field yet. So.
For anyone who missed it, we discussed it a little bit earlier, but Troy Franklin dealing with a hamstring, Pat Bryant, concussion, and Franklin, of course, second on the team in receiving. He's such a key cog for what they do. They ended up signing Brandon Johnson to the practice squad to kind of supplement. So we'll see what the latest is on that. The other big injury, of course, for the conference championship weekend, we knew not only Bo Nix, obviously, but in the Seattle Seahawks game, Zach Charbonnet also tore his ACL. So he's going to be done for the remainder of this thing, which is very unfortunate. We're also in NFL circles getting just a lot of social media drama today. There's no betting impact with this, but I feel so bad for Keon Coleman this morning for just catching strays in the Terry Pegula press conference earlier today, trying to protect their general manager, Brandon Beane, who gets elevated, by the way.
I was going to say, no longer general manager.
Who has a president of football operations, gets elevated to that following the firing of Sean McDermott. And when asked a question about the draft pick and Keon Coleman, Pegula just steps right in there and defends him that was a full coach's decision. A lot of people wanted Brandon was just being a team player. And
then subsequently 2 or 3 clips of him being very, very randy about drafting Keon Coleman immediately popped up on the internet. So
we knew it was him the whole way.
Yeah. He was happy he ran a 40 over 4.5 because that meant he was going to drop to them. It's a nightmare.
And then there's another thing too with the Kevin Stefanski hiring out there in Atlanta. There was a report from an Orlando publication that was talking about how Kevin Stefanski had such a dumpster fire situation in Cleveland. It wasn't his fault. He had all these bad quarterbacks and referenced Baker Mayfield as a part of it and how that was a failure. And then Baker quote tweets that, says, "Failed is quite a reach, pal. Still waiting on a text or call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach," as they'll now be in the same division. And then Joe Thomas quote tweets Baker and says, "Communication's a two-way street, and you could have reached out to Stefanski." What? Why are we airing grievances on social media as professional athletes?
That's what happens, I guess. There's been a lot going on. Did you see?
Should we do that to each other?
I do it on here all the time. I'll tell you my problems with you. You going to show up to work this week?
But I like that they're straight up. It's face to face. I'll just show up digitally.
Okay. There was a great report that I have bookmarked to read, but the airing of dirty laundry in the Lakers organization has happened.
Oh, yeah, I saw all that too.
That's going to be something worth reading.
With Jeannie not liking LeBron's ego.
Oh, yeah.
And some layers to that. And yeah, so lots of drama. Speaking of basketball, though, we do have a lot of college basketball to get to. And how about Vanderbilt after the 16-0 start? They were, I think we got to odds on in the SEC for them to win the conference. And then they lose at Texas last week, and that just started a slide. They have failed to cover in 4 straight, lost straight up the last 3 at Texas against Florida, and then Arkansas last night. A 93-68 drubbing that started early. You look for anyone who didn't watch this game live. Arkansas started the game on a 13-2 run and just never really looked back.
Yep.
Vanderbilt missed 8 of its first 9 shots from the floor. And looking at some of the just sidebar metrics with this thing, Arkansas's length clearly a problem. Forced them to the outside. Commodores made just 10 to 31 3-point attempts. The way that they were outscored in the paint by 30 points, it was tough watch.
Absolutely. So here's the thing with Vandy, and you're kind of alluding to this here. I think 2 things have happened with this team, and it's a very good example why you want to cut down on sample sizes and how you're evaluating teams. On the surface, I could tell you that Vanderbilt is the 9th best offense in the country and a top 30 defense in the country. And those 2 things would be true because it factors in what the season has been. If you filter for SEC play only, you're talking about a team that has given up 118.6 points per 100 possessions, which in their last 2 games, they've given up over 1.2 points in each of them. The last 3 games. Their last 2, they've got a defensive rating of over 130. Stormy, all of a sudden, they have no presence defensively inside. Their SEC opponents are shooting 59% on 2-point shots, and their offense has suffered. And that's a good observation with their offense itself, because if you look at their average 2-point attempt distance, it has actually increased by a full foot. So they are not getting to the rim. They weren't really getting to the rim a ton for the season. They're actually right around 339th in the country in average 2-point attempt distance. They're not getting there. They're shooting some mid-range jumpers. That has dried up as well. So this is fascinating. And to your point about the SEC, in conference play, when it started, they had won 3 straight, one of those being at home against Alabama in what was a shootout, 96-90. But it had seemed like the SEC was kind of weak, at least by my observation. But in the 6 games since, the SEC has kind of started to rise around them, and they have started to fall. Florida is starting to turn things around. Arkansas looks good.
Yep.
And we can go all around the SEC and find some of these teams that are really starting to find their form now. So this is, I think, obviously a problem for Vandy, and now the SEC looks a lot deeper. And this is why we talked about this yesterday. We didn't talk about the game, but one of the futures that I added was Florida to win the national championship. They go out against LSU yesterday. 79-61. They've now won 4 straight, 8 out of 9. And in SEC play, they only have 1 loss so far. They look like they're very, very strong at this point right now. So all of a sudden, when it looked like maybe this is going to be Vandy's thing to lose, and Florida looked like it was scuffling, now all of a sudden Florida looks right back to what they can be potentially. And Vandy's, I don't know, them again, I guess. Vandy's been a solid basketball program, but yeah, this has been incredible to watch.
13-0 in the non-con now, 3-3 in SEC play. And we talk about those conference odds. Florida, who you mentioned, -210 now in that market. Alabama +550, and the aforementioned Arkansas Razorbacks +850. I aired my grievances a little bit earlier about watching the end of the San Antonio Spurs game. Here's your opportunity to air your grievances about Kent State.
Oh, that was tough. Miami, Ohio, man, they just keep getting this done somehow. 107-101 in overtime. Kent State has the ball with a 2-point lead and 13 seconds left in the game, and they lose in overtime. Turn the ball over. The second they turned the ball over, I knew this was going to happen. You should see some of the text messages I sent our buddy Adam Burke throughout the game as well. Maybe not so nice things being said there, but that was, you knew the second. Humans always says it, all these cliches with these bettors say it all the time. Overtime, it's where the dog goes to die, and that's exactly what happened for Kent State, although technically I think they went off as a favorite there. They were the underdog for me. But how about this? It was a running rebel night last night for UNLV. Not only did they beat Utah State, which we'll get to momentarily, for Kent State, Rob Whaley, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 11 of 15 from the floor, 2 of 3 from three-point range. Former running rebel. So it was a big night for UNLV yesterday. But how about that? One of the big upsets. UNLV goes out to Logan to get a big win over Utah State, and it ties into where we started. It all comes back to the beginning. You had these two teams that had started off so well. Utah State and Vandy. And now all of a sudden they're kind of falling back to the pack. Utah State with a couple of consecutive losses, Vandy as well. And UNLV all of a sudden now a red-hot team, having won 3 straight, covered 3 straight, and winning 6 out of 8.
And I can't remember if you said it on the air or if you just said it to me before we got out of here yesterday, but you were looking at that spread and you're like, seems a little too big.
Right.
So nailed it from your standpoint. Meanwhile, in the Mountain West tonight, a big one between my Aztecs and our Lopes.
Yes. So did you bet that too? Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, excuse me, situationally.
I was trusting your handicap in the college basketball betting guide.
Well, they're off to a pretty good start. And now with Utah State kind of slipping from the top, you're a little bit more live here. And by the way, Grand Canyon beat Utah State over the weekend. So that's pretty good for them when it comes to this. We need New Mexico to lose at some point too. Mm-hmm. So we were still in this though. But I would say situationally, you're probably looking at a potential letdown, some would say, for Grand Canyon. You're coming off of that win at home against Utah State. But, you're playing at home. This is a good spot for you to just consistently be in the same location, practice, get comfortable. They are, depending on where you look, a 1.5-point favorite or a 1.5-point underdog. I would lean toward Grand Canyon. I believe in this team. We have the preseason futures on them to win the regular season title for a reason. Situationally, I don't think you love where you're coming from after that big win. But, look, man, it's a relatively solid conference. And I think San Diego State, as we have seen this year, they are still the best team in the conference, off to a 7-0 start in conference play, but they are mortal and coming off of a tough home win over New Mexico, 83-79.
Okay, reminder, everybody, before we get out here, you have to try Omaha Steaks if you haven't already. It is the perfect complement to your sports viewing each and every night. Right now, when you spend $129, you can score 2 pounds of fully cooked chicken wings plus 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com/vsin. Don't wait, get in there now. It's so easy to spend $129 there, too, with all of the great stuff they have. 2 pounds of wings and 50% site-wide on steaks and more. omahasteaks.com/vsin. That's omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Minimum purchase required. Please see site for details. We're talking golf next with the American Express in La Quinta coming up. We are joined by Christopher Powers after the break.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
So Chris Goddard, up after missing the cut at the Sony Open a year ago, claimed the first PGA title of the season, winning that same event in Hawaii on Sunday. We now turn our attention back to the mainland for our second event of the year as we roll on here. The American Express in La Quinta, California, also marks the season debut of world number 1 Scotty Scheffler. To help us break it all down, very fortunate to have Christopher Powers join us here on the Progressive Guest Line, senior writer over at Golf Digest. And we look at the odds market here for outright Scotty Scheffler, a plus 290 favorite. The next shortest shot on the board, Ben Griffin at 20-1, Ludwig Oberg 22-1. We're starting early with some of these insane Scheffler prices, aren't we?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon this year. I was just looking, we were talking pre-show about maybe a top 10, maybe added on to a anytime touchdown score parlay. He did not finish in the top 10 at the Players Championship last year. He's finished in the top 10 in every event since. So, and obviously he's won a few of those. So I think the price is only going to get shorter. We've made the Tiger comparison numerous times over these last few years. I think the Tiger comparison will get very real eventually when it's Scotty versus the field. And I don't think we're that far away from that.
So before we get to, some of the field here, let's talk about the course and how it's going to play. What kind of a golfer do you want for the American this week?
Yeah, so 3 courses this week, kind of one of those odd ones. Used to be a pro-am, a celebrity pro-am. They got rid of that, much like the Pebble Beach pro-am got rid of that. So they're playing the stadium course, which is a Pete Dye layout, very tricky, but you can still make a ton of birdies. And then 2 shorter, much easier courses, La Quinta and the Nicklaus Tournament course. You need a guy who's going to make 1 million birdies, 20 under or lower, wins this tournament every year. I think 2007 was the last time someone did not shoot 20 under or better to win this golf tournament. So you got to make a ton of birdies. You got to go low every day. You got to go low on the stadium course, which it's hard to do there, and you get 2 cracks at the stadium course. 54-hole cut this week, so everyone's guaranteed 3 rounds. I'm looking for elite putters. John Rahm, when he used to play in this, called this a putting contest. And then obviously a lot of short irons and wedges this week at the 2 other courses, Nicklaus Tournament course and the La Quinta course. Don't have to be a great elite driver of the golf ball, so kind of negates Scotty Scheffler's strengths and opens up, for some more long shots here this week. Long shots have thrived at this tournament.
So long shots, and to follow up on what you're talking about in terms of the scoring for this course, does that mean there's some volatility in tournament as well? If I can birdie a ton, does that mean if I fall behind, I can also make up some gaps pretty quickly, especially if the cuts move back and it's 3 rounds?
Absolutely. And again, that stadium course is kind of where you just want to hold serve. You want to shoot 2-3 under, and then the other 2 days you get the easier courses. You can make up a ton of ground. So, I like a guy like, we'll get into it, Harry Hall. He's starting on the stadium course tomorrow. I like getting that out of the way and then playing catch up the rest of the week. So ton of volatility to your point for sure.
So I guess talk us through Hall, former UNLV Rebel. I know you love that, JVT. But when you look at him and what he brings, are you just betting him in the outright? Are you looking at some of those other derivative markets as well? How are you playing Harry Hall this week?
I played him top 10 last week. He cashed that, finished T6. He actually played horrible on Sunday, too. So it was a little upsetting because I did also have him outright. I like guys that played last week. I don't like coming in cold to this. Like I said, 3-course rotation. You got to make 1 million birdies. I like guys in game shape. Harry Hall is one of those. I'm also just very high on Harry Hall this year. I thought he should have been in the mix for the Ryder Cup last year. Kind of got hot a little too late. And obviously they have such a great team, so they could leave him at home. I expect him to win multiple times this year. A guy, like I said, great wedge player and one of the best putters by far on the planet. I believe he ranked 3rd in strokes gained putting last year on the PGA Tour. Putted it great last week. Doesn't 3-putt a lot. Great on the par 5s. There's a ton of those this week. Can fill it up with the best of them. So I'm on Harry Hall outright, and we'll probably do the top 10 again as well this week.
All right, any long shots that we like here this weekend?
Yeah, you know what? I probably not for the faint of heart, but I'm going to go with Nick Dunlap, who I believe I saw is 125-1 former winner here. He won here as an amateur in 2024. Has kind of had periods where he seemingly lost his game. I'm sure people remember he shot, I believe it was an 89 or a 90 at Augusta National. I think that was last year. Really struggling with the driver, but still somehow an elite iron player. He ranked 2nd in the field last week in approach play. Perfectly solid putter. So kind of just a ceiling bet. And like I said, obviously one here likes the golf course. You don't have to be an elite driver to win here, as evidenced by Nick Dunlap's win here a couple of years ago. So I'm taking a shot there, betting on his ceiling. And then I also like Alex Smalley. He's 100-1. Played very solidly here the last 2 years. Not a great week last week, but still finished inside the top 40. A guy who's kind of been knocking on the door the last few years. Does everything well. Nothing super elite, which is probably why he hasn't won yet. But certainly like him, top 20, top 10 market, and I'm going to take a shot outright as well.
Christopher Powers, Golf Digest, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. When you look at some of these shorter shots outside of Scheffler, Ben Griffin, Oberg, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Robert McIntyre, and the like, any guys up there that you really just don't trust or don't have interest looking at this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ludwig Aberg to answer that question. Has never played here. Like I said, kind of an interesting week, 3 courses. You gotta come out firing. You got to be aggressive. Ludwig, elite driver of the golf ball. And as I've stated, that kind of, it's not going to help you separate this week. You gotta eat with your wedges and your putter. Not that Ludwig can't do that, but coming in cold, not in game shape, like I said, there's better options. And like I said, I like more middle tier long shots this week anyway.
I'm curious, as you look around, there's a couple of guys that are coming back. We're going to see them. One of them is a big name, Will Zalatoris. He's had these back surgeries and these issues. Just curious your thoughts on what we're going to get from him the first time around and maybe big picture this season from him if he's finally healthy.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm on the edge of my seat for that. I worry about the back stuff. I worry about the violence of his golf swing. I know he's worked hard just to kind of start playing every day normally again. And I've heard some quotes recently that, he's coming back from a really bad back injury and he's trying to play his way back into shape and he's playing a lot. Like, I don't know what to expect from him this week. I would stay very far away from him. I'm rooting for the guy. He's a great dude. Obviously a great player. I hope we haven't seen the best of him already, but I'm certainly worried just about his frame, the way he swings the golf club, already having surgeries at his age. I'm not sure what we're going to see from him this year, but I'm certainly rooting for the comeback.
How much have you dug into, or do you typically on a week-to-week basis look at some of those potential round one leaders or matchups if there's a guy that you really don't like, trying to fade him in a handful of matchups? You're smiling. What's the angle?
I used to be, I guess you could call it, addicted to the first round leader bet. Had to get away from that because you can spend a lot of money quickly on that. You think you're spending a little bit of money to win big, and you hit one big, and you're kind of set for the year, and then you go on a ice cold streak as I did. It's just a very hard market to predict, as you guys know. A guy like Harry Hall ranked super high last year, 3rd in round one scoring average, but obviously you want to bet on guys that do well in that area, that come out hot. It's become a very, very scary market for me. Tough one to predict, but a very fun one. And it gets you right into the fire on Thursday.
Would this be the tournament to try it? I mean, with the 3 different golf courses, would maybe this be one that you could handicap a little bit more accurately?
Absolutely. I would probably look towards guys. I think it's La Quinta, where I want to say it was Adam Hadwin a couple of years ago, threatened 59. Guys are going to go very deep. I would not be surprised to see a sub-60 round there this week. Obviously, the weather's always perfect out there in Palm Springs. Conditions will be perfect. I wouldn't bet on a guy playing the stadium course day one to be the first round leader. Now, there will be a couple separate markets. I think depending on the book, you might get specifically just first round leaders for a certain course. I think you'll find at some books, and others you might find a first round leader for the entire tournament. And in that case, I would hunt down the guys who are not playing the stadium course.
We've only got about 40 seconds left, but a selfish question, because someone I was looking at this week was Patrick Cantlay for a top 10. What's your evaluation of him?
Cantlay has played very well at this tournament in the past, kind of likes to get his season kicked off here. Elite putter, like we've talked about, great short iron player, does everything well. I'm not against it at all.
Okay, that makes me feel at least a little bit better. I needed some sort of stamp of approval. Thank you so much for the time. We really, really appreciate it and enjoy the action starting tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thanks, dude.
Christopher Powers, again, senior writer over there at Golf Digest. Make sure you check out all of the work. When we come back, we will do our plays for today. And you have made a proclamation, a New Year's resolution. You're making a golf bet every single week. So I have one, although I just kind of gave it away just now. But I'm sure you're going to be involved as well.
By the way, won both the matchups that I bet last week, too. The outrights, not at all, but yeah.
I lost mine. But I'm not bitter. But we can only go up from here.
That's right.
We got to step aside, wrapping things up with our best bets on Money Moves coming up after this.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are wrapping up this Wednesday edition of Money Moves live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Remember, if you missed any of the show, you can always download and subscribe to Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Always nice to be able to listen on your own time when you're on a run or going out running errands, whatever it may be. We have some best bets to get to here in a moment. Before we look forward, let's look back to last night, see how we did. Not a great day. 0-2 for me. The Oilers did not come through on the 60-minute line. They lose 2-1 to the Devils. And then the Spurs, I already complained enough about this earlier, but for a team that was up by as many points as they were, 16-point lead in the second half, to not be able to cover the 4.5 is just vomit-inducing. They were covering the entire way up until about 36 seconds left, and you lose by the hook.
You're not going to bet the Hornets?
No.
Why not?
I'm not going to go oppo you today, okay? I already bet the Hornets in the futures market multiple times. I've bet every time I've bet them in the regular season I have lost. So I'm done with them.
We are.
I'm done with them.
Well, we're not done with them. You're
I'm
very
still
much
rooting for them.
Yes.
But every time that I've either talked myself into or been talked into angles on betting them so far in the regular season, it has not panned out. So I'm taking a break from Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, the Cavs, by the way, up to 3.5-point favorites at a couple of spots. We'll get to that momentarily. Last night for me, I can't help but feel salty, as do you. Kent State in that game.
Yep.
They do fall into a hole early, but with the ball up to 13 seconds left, you turn the ball over on the inbound. You go on to lose at overtime. That was a tough pill to swallow. Indiana stays inside of a big number there. So 1-2 in the night in college hoops. So we move on to today.
Okay. The only thing that I have added for today specifically, and I should have written this down as well.
Daisy.
Because I mentioned yesterday
Hockey?
that we were still pending the Indiana and Rams teaser to close that out. I am also adding a Rams-Broncos teaser in this one. We're going untraditional. We're going to get the Broncos up to double digits.
What are you doing?
Bring the Rams to 8.5. What do you mean?
I mean, we have graphics people. We could have put this all together.
I know. That's my bad. And I've known that all day because I put it in the account this morning. So that's already in. So that is my fault, Justin. I'm sorry.
See this?
I will be better. What do you want from me, okay?
To do your job.
I did my job in other ways, okay? But also, as far as golf goes, you guys, I'm sure, heard me ask the question last segment to Christopher Powers of Golf Digest to get his opinion on Patrick Cantlay, because I want to play the top 10 here, and I'm going to do so. Plus 270 the price for Cantlay to be in the top 10. He mentioned the elite putting. I think that's going to be an important element here at this course. He finished top 10 in 3 of his last 5 starts at the American Express at the Pete Dye Stadium course. When you look at some of just the way the numbers and like how he closed out last season, hopefully he can carry over a little bit of that momentum from the end of the year to now. So that's where I'm going.
We're working on getting our long shot crews in a regular rotation.
Yeah.
Is our weekly golf segment going to turn into what our weekly fantasy segment was with Kendall Valenzuela, which was essentially just you asking about your own fantasy team in veiled ways?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is our golf segments are just going to be all about bets that you feel like making, and you just need
I'm sorry. Why did you ask that question about Will Zalatoris last segment?
There's no reason.
I'm very curious. No, please do explain. Please do say.
It's a very interesting storyline, Stormy, and it may have something to do with the matchup that I'm looking at. You know?
Okay.
Tonight,
I see you.
Tonight, Cavaliers -2.5 against the Charlotte Hornets. Talked about this and put it in earlier in the day. Just think the number's a little short. Mark is starting to agree with me here. I still think 3 is playable. There's plenty of 3s out there right now for Cleveland, but I understand the way the Hornets have been playing. We've talked about this. We hit these numbers at actually really in depth. You can go up to VSiN Live up on X. There's a clip up. I've retweeted it of Pod to the Futures talking about the Hornets and their starting lineup in depth and how good it has been statistically. But I think we're probably at the top of the market here. So we're going to give this a shot. Not too bad of a road trip for Cleveland coming off a day off. So Cavaliers -2.5. Can the Cavs give me a 1-possession win against our Hornets? Hopefully. And if not, as long as it doesn't fall on 2 or 1. Which, who knows, maybe with my luck, but maybe a minor emotional hedge. I'll be happy either way. As I come in tomorrow, hopefully they cover, or we're talking about another Hornets win, and that win-o-meter up 1 more.
So it's a win-win for you is
That's
what
right.
you're saying. That said, let's talk about the golf here real quickly from you before we get to college hoops.
Well, I haven't finalized my golf card yet. I'm going to put some in tonight, so I'll have them, and we'll put a graphic together for tomorrow so I can have that ready for you.
Yeah, but then nobody can bet it yet, so can you just at least tell us what your mindset's
I do want to
going?
play against Will Zalatoris. I think that's going to be something. It is why I asked to. This is his first tournament back. We've talked about the 2 back surgeries in 3 years. There's probably some volatility there. As I was kind of talking out loud to you just a couple of minutes ago, Is it, hey, he comes back and he's just an absolute nightmare? Or is the first one back? It's almost like the fatigue thing in hoops where, the fatigue doesn't manifest until like the second half. So maybe this first tournament back, he's going to be fine. But then once he's done, you're really going to feel the effects of it. I'm not entirely sure. But I'll be very curious to see how he plays here and trying to go against him in some matchups to see what's available at this point right now. So that's at the top of the list. And we've talked about this in terms of, for our audience, our New Year's betting resolutions was betting on golf every single tournament. My thing, too, is betting more of these matchups and whatnot. As I mentioned to you, hit the 2 matchups that we had last week, and so kind of want to do that. Did have 4 outrights that did not get there, but wanting to add to the portfolio with some of these matchups is obviously the way to go, and I have to be smarter with my golf betting, and that's the goal.
I made the mistake last week of fading Robert McIntyre, so just going to leave that where it was.
And my goal is also to listen to Long Shots every single week. So make sure you check that out everywhere you get your podcast.
And as you said, we're going to try to get a nice little rotation going, hopefully, of Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin, Matt Brown, to give their respective breakdowns every week ahead of each tournament as we go here.
All three are listening and shaking their heads now.
Please say yes. Please say yes. Last couple of minutes here, though. We dove into some college basketball earlier on the program, but a lot of it was from a future standpoint. As far as tonight goes, what were you looking at?
Okay, there's a lot. You mentioned what I think is one of the premier matchups, and I think many would. San Diego State on the road against Grand Canyon. But let us not discuss that.
I know you're rolling with the Lopes, but
we have this future, so we're going to be rooting for the Antelopes to stampede. I don't know. Let's go to the ACC really quickly. I forgot to put this on the list. I am morbidly curious about North Carolina today taking on Notre Dame. I would actually text him to see how he feels about his Fighting Irish tonight. But North Carolina has played 3 out of the last 4 on the road. They're coming off of a West Coast swing. They played Stanford. They played Cal. Their defense has not been good. In those 2 games, a defensive rating of over 120 in 3 of the 4. Their defensive rating has ballooned as well. And similar to what we talked about with Vandy and some of these other teams, in ACC play, a defensive rating of over 120 overall. They've played 5 games so far. So we've really seen this team struggle quite a bit. And one of the things that has really gotten them is the fact that their perimeter defense has been somewhat leaky. And they're playing a little bit bigger, Stormy, so I think that kind of hurts you when you're talking about guarding out there on the perimeter. Opponents are shooting 44.9% from three-point range against North Carolina in ACC play. So I am going to be curious to see if that maintains, if that was just a rough spot. But on the other end, you get Notre Dame. Notre Dame, who's lost 4 straight and 5 out of 6, and how this looks for the Irish. Their own offense has really fallen off of a cliff at ACC play. They're shooting under 32% from 3, hitting the road on the second straight road trip for them. They played at Virginia Tech on Saturday, now at North Carolina. And I'll be curious to see if the market's getting this right today. I lean a little bit toward Notre Dame, but I'm excited to watch what the result is going to be here. Right now up to 13.5. We saw this open at 11.5 in some spots, up to 14. So if this continues to go up, you're going to give me in the range of like 15 or so, 14.5, then I think it might be worth taking a little bit of a flyer on Notre Dame as we get closer to tip-off later today. That's going to be at the top of the list as well. Do you have anything?
No, I was just going to say the Tar Heels are one of 5 ranked teams in action tonight. And when you look at those spreads, all of them are double digits today. So all of them lay in big numbers. I was curious your opinion, just briefly, if you can, on Arizona. They're laying that same number, 13.5 against Cincinnati. And we recently saw them in that very big favorites role against Arizona State. And obviously it did not go well for them. They get the win, but it was an ugly win. How do you think that they are looking moving forward, or is that just an off night?
Yeah, I mean, an off night and a rival as well, so I think that kind of factors into it. But to your point, they go out to UCF a couple of days later, and they win, but they win only 84-77, not like a dominant showing by any stretch. I love this Arizona team a ton. I think if there's a flaw in them at this point right now, they don't shoot a ton of threes, and they don't shoot them relatively well. They're only shooting 32% from 3 and taking fewer than a quarter of their shots from beyond the arc. In an NCAA tournament setting, that might get you. But coming back home here against Cincinnati, I think you might be able to get it done. Might be a little bit of a letdown for Cincinnati as well. Just scored a big win on Saturday at home against Iowa State. Now you got to hit the road to take on Arizona, who not hurting, but might be a little upset about the last 2 disjointed performances and might look for a little bit of a bloodletting against a team that has to go on the road after getting a big win over the Cyclones.
I'm sure our big boss man, Steve Cohen, really liked that handicap from you.
Yeah, I like Arizona a lot. I was arguing with Tim over the weekend. This is not a shot at you. When you were off on Sunday, we were talking about the Arizona quite a bit, and I know that there's thoughts about Tommy Lloyd and him as a head coach, but this team's really talented. The Burris kid is really starting to get it. Their offense is great. I'm kind of buying in, so we'll see if that's going to be something that actually comes to fruition.
And it was has a shot at me because every time it is. I already know.
No, I wanted to preface that.
That is a wrap for us today.
We're not here.
Appreciate all of you hanging out with us as always. Even though we are done, make sure you keep it locked right here. Coming up next, Mitch and Paul are going to be holding it down with Follow the Money. It is a Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's a Sal Pal day. Vito's son going to be on the program, give his insight for the playoffs. Then stick around, VSiN Primetime with Matt Brown and Mike Somich coming up a little bit later on, beginning at 7 o'clock Eastern, followed by the nightcap, our good buddy Dustin Sweetelson holding it down at 11 Eastern for Cashing Out, reviewing and giving you some live action on everything going on tonight. For Jonathan Von Tobel, our producer Justin Emery, I'm Stormy Buonantony. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.